And the first part of this is doing a lot of graphing, so I'm actually going to pull up the Math Lab so we can do these few with the graphs on them, okay? So this first question wants to know if this is even, odd, or neither. So remember, if it's even, it's symmetric to the y-axis. If it's odd, it's symmetric to the origin. And if you look at this one, it is definitely symmetric to the y-axis, which is going to make this one even. Also notice it's touching the x-axis 2 times. So that's also even number. So this one you would pick even and go next. All right, so this wants to describe how the function can be obtained from one of the basic graphs. All right, and they're giving us g of x equals x plus 4 squared plus 5. So remember, we had about 6 or 7 basic graphs. So since this one has that exponent of 2, your basic graph on this would be the x squared graph. So you would put in your x and square that. Now the 4, it says shift it blank 4 units. Remember, that 4 is inside those parentheses. So when it's inside the parentheses, it's either left or right. Now, inside the parentheses, if you add 2 to x, it's going to go left. If you subtract from the x, it'll go right. So since this one is adding 4 units, we know this will go left. And then shift it blank 5 units. Well, remember at the end, when you add, it goes up. And at the end, when you subtract, it goes down. So since this 5 is being added, this one will actually go up 5 units. All right, y'all, remember, it's going to make us graph this. So remember, since that's the x squared graph, it's going to look like a parabola. So when we graph this, we're going to grab the parabola or the x squared tool, and then you click anywhere on the graph. It'll always put it in the center. Now to move it, we're going to use the vertical shift and the horizontal shift buttons. So remember, I said we went left 4, so that would be a horizontal. You're going to move that over to -4. And notice it moved that parabola left. And then the +5 at the end would be vertical. So we would take that over to a +5. And notice it moved the parabola up for us. Now, you can also graph these in your calculator to make sure your graph looks like what you get on your calculator, okay? But y'all, after you move that graph, then you're going to go to next.
And I have a question real quick.
Yeah, I hear you.
And just to remind me how you graph that again, are you just putting in that gx equals and put that in and then you like y equals and then you put your gx and then you press graph?
Oh, on my calculator?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me share that real quick.
Can I ask you a question? How did you click on that little box? Because every time I can never find that little box where you move that little box that you just open up.
Okay, so let me let one in real quick. Alrighty, so let me get the calculator done real quick, and then we'll come back and see how I'm getting them boxes, okay? All right, y'all, so let me share my calculator. Now, on my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals. So
Yes,
y
sir.
equals is in place of the g of x part. And then we had x plus 4 squared, so I'm going to hit my parentheses, put in my x plus 4, close parentheses, and square that, and then +5. So now I've got it in there, what I want it to graph. So y'all, I'm just going to hit the graph button just to see what it looks like. And if you notice, it did move it left and up on the calculator, okay? So let's go back to the graph. So I'm going to see if it'll let me clear this one. All right, so I'm going to clear it. So now, instead of using their graph up here, I go on the left side over here where it says click to enlarge graph. I click that and it pops up this window right here. So I'm going to clear this one off. Now, it won't give you the box to move left or right until you put the actual graph on the coordinates here. So grab the X squared tool, the U shape, and just click anywhere on that graph. Once you click onto the graph, notice on the right side, it'll open up that box. And then this is where I went, I think we went left 4. So my horizontal, I'm going to move to -4. And then the +5 was for the vertical at the end. So I'm going to move that to a +5. And then at that point, you just save it. And notice my graph on here looks like the graph we got on our calculator. So hopefully that helped you on that one.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, y'all, this is the square root graph we got right here. Now, remember, since that -10 is up under that radical, you would treat it like that was inside parentheses, which is going to move me left or right. Now, remember, since that 10's being subtracted from the x, and it's all up under that radical, that's actually going to move us right. So you would click the box and put right, and then it was 10 units. So you put in the 10, and then it wants to choose one of the graphs below. So now you can graph this on the calculator, I'll show you. But remember, it moved it right 10 units. Now these square root graphs always started in the very center of the graph. So y'all, which one went right? You got A, B, C, and D. Looks like one went left, one went right, one went up, and one went down. And if I'm looking at these, if you look at A here, that's not starting in the center. It looks like it went right 10 units like we said it would do. So you would click A on that one and then check your answer.
And how did you know you'd go right again?
So let me go to my pad real quick here. So on these graphs, if it's inside parentheses, or if it's under these, so if it's inside parentheses, or say under these radicals, you would treat that like parentheses also.
Okay.
Now, inside the parentheses, remember, plus goes left, and if you're subtracting, it's going to go right.
Okay.
So that one was I done forgot what I had. X -10, I think it was.
Yes, sir, it was.
So I had a square root of X -10. So since this 10 was being subtracted, I knew automatically that it has to go
To the right.
to the right.
Okay.
That one's almost backwards what you think.
Yes, sir.
But it's the only one that's backwards. And when you add at the end, plus means up and negative means down. That one, is pretty straightforward. It's just those ones inside the parentheses y'all got to watch out for, okay?
Okay. I think I understand.
Mm-hmm. And then remember, graph it if you want to. If you graph that, let me go to that calculator now. So I'm going to go to y equals, and that was a square root. So I'm going to hit second x squared to get the square root, and then do my x -10. And it's all under the radical like I needed. So then I would hit graph. Whoops. Now the reason you can't see it is because my graph only goes out 10 on this. So I would have to set my window up a little more. And I think on the, let me see what MATLAB went to on that. And you see how MATLAB's going to 20 on the X's and Y's? So if you want your calculator to match that, you got to go hit this window button up here, the second button on the top, hit window, and make those go from -20 to 20 like they're doing. So I'm just going to make my X minimum -20, my X maximum was 20. And then I'm going to go down here to the Y minimum and make that a -20. And then go down to the Y max and make that a +20. Now that I got my window to match their graph, I'm going to hit my graph. And there you can see it sort of goes to the right and starts its little curve. Now, if I want to set it back on a 10 by 10, I'll just hit zoom and go down to number 6, standard. And that'll put it back on a 10 by 10 graph. But since mine moved right 10, you're not seeing it on this. That's why I had to adjust my window, okay? All right, y'all, so we did that. Picked A, then you would go to next. Now, this one we don't have to graph. We just got to know what's happening with it. Now, they always start inside those parentheses. So that -6, let's see what they got in here when I hit the arrow. We're starting with the X squared graph again. So that -6, is that going right 6? And then they got right 7, left 6, and left 7. We all the 7's at the end. That 7's either going up or down. So that's not part of the options here. We got to figure out, is that going right 6 or left 6? And
Right 6.
there you go, right 6, because it's being subtracted. And then we're going to reflect it across. Well, y'all, we've only reflected across one of these axes. And that's the x-axis. So on this number, what's this, number 4? And you got a negative in the very front. You got to put x-axis on that, okay? And then, y'all, what's that +7 at the end doing? Up 7, up 6, down 6, down 7.
Up 7.
Up 7. There you go. So that one is sort of like what you would think. What you got to watch out for is those parentheses, okay? All right, y'all, then we hit next. Now this one, it wants me to find a 0. So let me write this down real quick. F of S equals S squared plus 11S plus 30. Now, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all, there's 3 ways you can solve this thing. You can graph it and look for the x-intercepts. So we can graph and find the x-intercepts. I could solve it by factoring. Or you could solve this by the quadratic formula. And that's the big one, the negative b plus or minus square root stuff. But I will tell y'all, your number 5 will factor and it will graph and have x-intercepts. So I'm going to actually solve it by factoring, and then I'm going to show y'all how to do it on the calculator. So the thing I would do is set that equal to 0. Now, to factor it, I would set up my parentheses. So factoring sort of undoes your FOILing. So in the front, you got an S squared. So that's going to put an S in front of both of our parentheses. Now, since this last number's positive, both of these factors will be positive like that middle number. So I sort of factor by my signs. And then y'all, what I need now to finish this off to be factored, I need factors of 30 that'll add to get 11. So you would find your factors of 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 4 don't work, and then 5 and 6. One set of these factors is going to add to get me 11. And y'all, that's going to be 5 and 6. So you would put in your 5 and your 6. So now this is factored. So to actually find the zeros, you set both of these factors equal to 0. And solve both of these for the S. And basically what we're doing now, we're changing the signs is all. Because here you would subtract 5, and I get S is a -5. Here I would subtract 6, and get S is a -6. So the zeros are going to be the -5 and a -6. Okay. Now, I'm going to graph this and show you how you would get these two answers. Now, when you're graphing it, remember, since these are zeros, when you're graphing it, the x-intercepts will be the numbers that have 0 for the y value. So let's go to the calculator. So I'm going to go y equals, clear that out. So I had, now I'm just using x's instead of s's. So I had an x, square that. And y'all, you got to use x's on this part, okay, when you're graphing. Plus 11s will be 11x, and then plus my 30. So that's the only thing you got to remember when you're doing it on the calculator. You got to use x's instead of whatever letter they're giving you. Now, I don't even care about the graph. I'm going to the table. So I'm going to hit the blue second button and then the graph button to pull up the table. Now, depending on where you're starting, I'm just going to start mine back up here like y'all would be at. Now, if you notice these y values, I'm looking for y's that equal 0. Not x's, but y values. So if you notice over here, if I go down, they're getting bigger. So I need to go the other way. These y values are getting smaller and smaller as I go up. Well, there's a 0, and that's one of my numbers I had, right? -5 is that x value that gave me a 0 for that y. And if I keep going up, there's the other one at -6. Now, what's going to happen on the other side of -6? Those y values are going to start going back up. Remember, these x-squared graphs are parabolas, and they're symmetric, okay? So, since those two y values are 0, I would pick -5 and -6 doing that way, okay? So we would come over here and put in -5, comma, -6. And then go next. Now, y'all, this one, sadly, we're going to have to do quadratic formula for. So let me write this one down. This is number 6. F of x equals 3x squared minus x plus 3. So 5, I will tell you, you can factor or graph. Number 6, y'all, the only way to do it is with the quadratic formula. So let's share that. So remember my quadratic formula, -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So let me figure out a, b, and c. So a will be the 3. B, since that's a negative x, B will be a -1. And then C will be the +3. So let's plug these numbers into the formula. So x will equal negative B, which is a -1. So remember, that negative only purpose is it's going to turn this -1 into a +1. All right, then I got -1 squared minus 4 times A, which is 3, and C, which is 3. All that over 2 times 3. So that we're just plugging my numbers in. Now remember, the 4 and 2 are always in your formula, okay? So now the trick is just start simplifying this. So 2 negatives will make that a +1, plus or minus, and then my square root, -1 times -1 is a +1. And y'all, any number that you square right here will be positive. All right, then we got -4 times 3 times 3. There's only one negative over here, so that side's going to stay negative. And then let's see what we got. 4 times 3 is 12, times 3 is 36. And then on the bottom, my 2 times 3 is 6. So we're sort of stuck on the outside until we finish out a radical. So let me keep working on that. Well, 1 minus 36 gives me a -35 all over 6. Now, y'all, we got to simplify that square root of 35 on the side. So remember, to simplify it, you're looking for the factors that are perfect squares. And I'm going to stop at 36 because my number's 35. Now, 4 is not a factor of 35. 9 is not a factor of 35. 16 is not a factor of 35. 25 is not a factor of 35. So none of these perfect squares are a factor of 35. So I can't break the number down, but we do got to take care of that negative. Remember, that negative, we got to bring that out as a square root of -1 times the square root of 35. And do y'all remember what I'm going to replace that square root of -1 with? All right, remember, y'all, if it's negative underneath, remember we broke it out as a square root of -1, and we replaced the square root of -1 with I, which means this is now an imaginary answer. And then bring down your 35. So you're probably not going to be able to simplify the number, but you got to bring the negative out as a I. Because remember, in the real world, like signs are never going to give us a negative answer, okay? So I'm going to come over here, 1 plus or minus I square root of 35 over 6. Now, y'all, here's the thing on this one. Remember, since I got imaginary answers, they like these split into 2 fractions. So you're going to put the 1 over 6. That's the real part of the answer. And then plus or minus I square root of 35 over 6. Or you could do the square root of 35 over 6 and then put the I beside it, okay? So let me show you how I would actually put this into that math lab. So let me click in here. So I'm going to hit the fraction bar first for the first part. And I had what, a 1 over 6. So let me put 1 and arrow down and 6. Then arrow right. I'm going to use the plus or minus they give you down here. And then I'm going to hit the fraction again. I'm gonna grab the I they give you. And then let's see, they got the square root right here. I'm gonna put in my 35. Then I'm gonna arrow down to the bottom and put in my other 6. Whoops. All right, let me arrow down. It's not okay. I guess I got to click on it. All right, now I'm going to put in my other 6. So I now have 1/6 plus or minus I square root of 35 over 6. And I'm just going to check that to see if that's acceptable for Math Lab. And there you go. All right, y'all. Then we would hit next. All right, so let me make the graph bigger because this one we're just looking at the graph. Now remember, x-intercepts have to be inside parentheses. So the first x-intercept is on the left side, and that looks like that's crossing at what, -2 on the x-axis. So remember, you would have a parentheses, -2, comma, 0. Remember, x-intercepts always have a 0 for the y value. All right, y'all. Now, what you got to do now is put a comma and then open up the second set of parentheses. All right, y'all. So I'm looking at the second black dot over there. And let me see. That looks like it's crossing at -5. So that one would be -5, comma, 0. And then close your parentheses. Now the x-intercepts, and they're telling you it's got to be an ordered pair on those. Now remember the solutions. Remember when I graphed a while ago, the solutions were the x values, where the y values were 0. So that means our solutions are going to be the -2, comma, what I have, -5. And y'all, that's all I got to do on that one. Then you would check and be good. Oh, what'd it say? Oh, y'all, let me look at that and see what.
Shouldn't the second number be a positive for the x-intercept?
Oh, my bad. I'll show you that 5 is not negative, is it? All right, y'all. So yeah, that's crossing at 5, not -5. I don't know what my world is right now. All right, here you go. There you go. All right, so don't do like me on that. Okay, do like y'all said. Oh, y'all, here we go. Here's our ladder problem. So let's see what the gist of this one is. So I'm gonna draw my wall. So the ladder, the foot of this ladder is 7 foot from the wall. And then remember, the height it reaches on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So what that means is, let me go to my pad here. So it's 7 feet from the wall down here. And then the height it reaches on the wall over here and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So that means if I let this height be x, the ladder has to be x plus 1. Y'all, yours is going to set up exactly the same. The only difference is going to be that 7 probably. Okay. So this was the right triangle we done when we had the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the only thing that has to be c is this longest side over here. The hypotenuse has to be our c. So I'm just going to make this a and that b. So for a, I'm going to put in a 7 and square that. B, I'm going to put an x in and square that. But c is an x plus 1 squared. And y'all, we're just solving this for these x's now. So 7 squared, that'd be 7 times 7 would be 49. Can't do nothing with the x squared on this side for the moment. Now, what gets a lot of people is that right side. I'm going to work that on the side. X plus 1 squared. Because x plus 1 squared does not equal x squared plus 1. You got to FOIL this, member. So do your x plus 1 times x plus 1. Now, y'all listen. Since y'all's is going to have an x plus 1 right here, just like me, whatever I get here will be the same thing y'all are going to get on y'all's test. Because remember, these two sides are the same. The only difference will be your 7. So let's FOIL this. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 1 times x is 1x. And then 1 times 1 is 1. And then we're going to add our like terms. So we get an x squared plus 2x plus 1. Y'all, every single one of y'all will have this on the right side. X squared plus 2x plus 1. Now, remember, you got x squared terms. So the first thing you want to do is get all these x squared terms on the same side. But y'all watch this. When I subtract this x squared from both sides to move it, look at that. X squares are canceling. Y'all's are going to cancel. So we're going to end up with 49 equals 2x plus 1. Y'all, at this point, other than that 49, y'all's equations better look like that, okay? Now they might give y'all a 5, a 6, a 8, or something like that. So remember, the only difference will be your 49 probably. So to solve this, I don't have no x squared terms no more. We just got to solve that for the x. So we're going to move that plus 1 by subtraction. 49 minus 1 will give me 48 equal to my 2x. And then divide both sides by 2. So 48 divided by 2 gives me 24 equal to my x. Now, y'all, that's not the answer they want. Because on this one, they want to know how long is the ladder. They don't care about how high it's up on that wall. The only thing they want to know is how long is that ladder. So we're going to take that 24 for x, add 1, and that's going to give us 25. So this one was only looking for the one measurement, okay? So let's see, we would go back to the math lab, put in our 25, and then if we want to check it and be done, okay? That just lets me check them because we're previewing. Y'all probably won't get to check the actual test. All right, y'all. So just remember, they're looking for the ladder on that. So you got to add that 1 to whatever x you get, okay? Now this one, ignore that x minus h squared stuff. I'm going to make this bigger. All we want is the vertex. And look, they're giving me the vertex. That 4, 1, that's the vertex they're giving us. So on this one, we're going to put it in. Remember, it's got to be in ordered pairs. 4, 1, close parentheses. The axis of symmetry has to be an equation. See what they got? Type an equation. So that's going to be x equals. And y'all remember, the axis of symmetry is equal to the x value of that vertex. So since the x value is 4, the axis symmetry will be x equals 4. And then it says, what is the minimum or maximum value? That's equal to the y value of the vertex, which is 1. So remember, the x value is the symmetry line. The y value is your min or max values, okay? So let's see. Whoops, I wanted to hit next. So let's see what y'all think about this one. The graph h of x equals x minus 3 squared can be obtained by translating the graph h of x equals x squared left 3 units. So since I'm subtracting 3 inside those parentheses, by subtracting 3, would that move me left and make this true? Or would that move me right and make this false? And y'all, this goes back to those ones we were sort of graphing a while ago. Remember, and it opened the boxes and I was moving them. What did we say when we subtracted inside those parentheses?
You go to the right.
I'm going to go to the right. And they said
So it
left.
would be
So guess
false.
what? That's going to be false. Good job. And see if you check it, we are correct. All right, y'all. So let me write this one down because they're wanting us to find let's see the vertex, and then they want to know the minimum maximum value, and then we'll find the range, and then increasing and decreasing stuff, okay? So the main thing we need on this is that vertex. So let me share my page. Now remember, the vertex is negative b over 2a, and then we find f of a negative b over 2a. All right, so remember, a is 1, b is 10, and c is 24. So the a is always in front of x squared, and the b is always in front of the x. So I'm going to use these numbers to find my vertex. And like I said, once we got the vertex, we pretty much got all the information we need to finish this problem out. So let's find our x value. That's going to be negative b over 2a, which will be negative times that 10 over 2 times a, which is 1. So this negative's only purpose, again, is to change the sign of your b, okay? If your b is positive, it's going to make it negative. So I get a negative 10 over 2, which gives us a negative 5. So we know the x value is negative 5. Now to get the y value, I got to find f of that negative 5. So f of negative 5, I'm going to put a negative 5 in for the two x's. So I got a negative 5 squared plus 10 times negative 5 plus 24. All right, y'all, any number I square will be positive. So negative times negative makes that a positive 25. But here I got a 10 times a negative 5. That'll make a negative 50. And then plus my 24. All right, y'all, let's see. 25 minus 50 is a negative 25. Negative 25 plus 24 is a negative 1. So my vertex is negative 5, negative 1. Now, y'all remember, if it is a positive a, the parabola is going to open upwards. And I know this little vertex here is at that negative 5, negative 1. If a was negative, it would flip it over and give me a maximum, okay? So let's go see what we can answer on the math lab now. So we know what our vertex was. So put that in parentheses. And that was negative 5, comma, negative 1. All right, we said we had a minimum because ours opened up. So I would have to go to the parabola opens upward A. It has a minimum value. Remember, the minimum value is the y value. So that'll be -1. Now it says, what is the range? Well, since this opens up, the range will be from that -1 upward. And remember, if it's going up, it's headed towards positive infinity. But now on the range, we got to use brackets. So where's a bracket on my computer? So to bracket around the number, remember, and put in that -1, because -1 was the smallest y value, and then comma, opening upwards goes towards infinity. And then close that with a parenthesis. Just remember, the range has to have brackets around the number and then parentheses around that infinity. All right, now the increasing and decreasing is going off of the x values. Now remember, this is increasing on that right side since it's going up on the right. And that means it started going up on the right, and these are always in parentheses, remember. And it started at that -5 on the x-axis. And it's going upwards to the right as I head out towards positive infinity. So let me go back to my paper so y'all see what I got. So remember, this is the x value. And at -5 is where this started going uphill to the right. And as you go out towards infinity that way. So if this is going from -5 to infinity, increasing, this side right here is decreasing. But you got to figure out where it's decreasing from and to. We know it stops at -5, but where's it starting at over here? Well, y'all, if they come in from the left, they're coming in from negative infinity. So as this comes in from negative infinity, it's decreasing until it gets to that -5. All right, so I would put that in. So parentheses, negative infinity, comma, -5. And then close your parentheses. So remember, on the increasing, decreasing, want to go from the number to infinity, want to go from negative infinity to that number, okay? All right, so we got them in right on that one. So now we hit next. Oh, y'all, this is basically another vertex problem. And all you need to worry about is that formula they're giving you. H of t. This is the height of the rocket, and t is time, which is your x variable basically, equals -16t squared plus 112t plus 4. Now it wants to know how long it'll take it to reach its maximum height and what is the maximum height. So let me share my page. So y'all, what that means on this one, I'm doing the vertex stuff, -b over 2a, and then f of -b over 2a. The x value will give me the time it takes. The f of -b over 2a is going to give me the height it reaches. So remember, we got a parabola. The rocket goes up, and then the rocket comes down. So we're looking for that little maximum peak right there. So y'all, we would find A, which is -16, B is 112, and C is 4. So first, let's see how long it's going to take it by finding our x value. So the time is going to equal -b over 2a, which will be a negative times 112 over 2 times my -16. Now, since you're finding time and height, both of these better end up positive, okay? All right, y'all, let's see what I get. Negative 112 over negative 32. All right, y'all, so in this one, we'll take decimal answers. So I'm just going to punch that in and see what I get. So I got what, a negative 112 divided by that negative 32. That's going to give me 3.5. So y'all, that's telling me it takes me 3.5 seconds for my graph to reach that maximum height. Now, to find the actual height, and I'll probably punch this on my calculator since I got decimals, I would find f of 3.5, which means I'm putting a 3.5 in for both of my t's. So I got negative 16 times 3.5 squared plus 112 times 3.5 plus 4. So I'm going to go to the calculator and punch that in. So let me get off the y stuff. So I had negative 16. And in parentheses, 3.5. Close parentheses and square that. Plus 112 times 3.5. Close parentheses and then plus 4. All right, y'all. So I got that all punched in. Remember, I better get a positive number. And when I hit enter, I get 200. So it took 3.5 seconds for my rocket to go 200 feet in the air. So let's see how we're going to put that in Math Lab. So let's see. Oh, they give you the seconds and stuff. So all you're going to do right here is put in 3.5. And then down here, you're going to put in 200. Now notice, on the first part, the maximum height, it says simplify my answer. It don't say I got to have fractions and all that. So we put in a decimal, check answer, and we're good to go.
Could you go back to your sheet where you wrote it down real quick? I'm trying to get all this stuff down on paper.
Okay, that's good.
I just need one.
Now, I actually could have done this part on the calculator. And I actually did the last division, the 112 divided by 32 to get my 3.5. And then down here, I was just putting that 3.5 in for these t's right here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I got it.
Okay, you good? All right. So they're not too bad. But me, when I don't mind doing stuff by hand, but when I get decimals and stuff like that, I'm probably a calculator guy. All right, y'all. So we're good on that. We're going to hit next. All right, so this one wants a domain. So f of x equals square root 3x minus 8. Now, sadly, in the homework, there was only one problem in college algebra doing this one. So remember, when you're dealing with a radical, you got to take that 3x minus 8 and set it greater than or equal to 0. So these, you're going to solve it for the x. So here we would what? Add 8. And I get my 3x has to be greater than or equal to 8. And then divide by 3, y'all. Now remember, I'm not switching this around because I'm dividing by positive numbers. Now think all of y'all should be positive on this for the x's. But if it was negative and you divide by negatives, you would have to flip it around, okay? So y'all, let's see what I get. I get x is greater than or equal to 8/3. Now, they give me answers to choose from on this. Make sure we get the one that has the greater than or equal on it, okay? So we would go to Math Lab. And notice they got not equals, wrong. They got less than or equals. That one's wrong. I'm going to go with C, greater than or equal to the 8/3. Now, y'all, if you put D on this one, you're going to miss it no matter what. Okay? Because radicals are not good for all real numbers. All right, y'all, so that one, if you want to check it real quick. And next. All right, now this is sort of similar to what was it, number 2 or number 3, where we had the radical. Y'all, that x minus 8 is under that radical, so it's like it's inside parentheses. So if I subtract 8 from that x, is it going to move me left or right? I'm going to make all my graphs a little bigger. Now, this one you could probably see on the calculator because it's only an 8 under there. Remember the one I did a while ago had 10 on it? I was subtracting 10. And the one I subtracted 10 on moved me right 10 units. So this one, since I'm subtracting 8, that's going to move me right 8 units. So y'all look, A went right. B looks like it went left. C went left and somehow flipped. And then D looks like it went down. So the only one that went to the right is A. All right, y'all remember, I'm going to do it on the calculator because that 8 should show up for me. So I had second x squared to get my radical, and then I had an x minus 8. Now, mine might not look exactly like theirs because they went out about 20. I'm going to keep mine at 10 just to see where the graph ended up. And y'all look right there. Right on the right side, you can see that's where my graph is starting at, positive 8, going uphill to the right. So I think we're safe on that one, going with A, okay? So you can almost use the moves to figure them out versus graphing if you want to. All right, so we're good on that. We're going to go next. Now this one, I would probably graph just to sort of see what's happening. Now, y'all, there's no way it's going to be A to straight line, okay? So let me go graph this. What's that? Square root of 4x minus 6. All right, y'all. So share my calculator. Go to y equals. Clear that out. So I have a square root, second x squared, 4x minus 6. Now, I will say if you got the old calculator that gives you the parentheses, you got to put all this in and then close your parentheses, okay? Or it won't do the right graph. All right, y'all. So let's see. I got it. I'm going to hit graph. So look, it's going uphill to the right. Now, I want to show y'all something on this one. Let me go back to Math Lab. Well, there's only one that looked like that, right? So let me show you my graph again. So see how it sort of goes right a little bit and then starts going uphill? The only picture that is close to that has to be B, y'all. So let me zoom that a little bit. So see how it sort of went right and then it starts going uphill. A is a straight line, no good. B is what I needed. C is going left the wrong way. And then D looks like it moved left. Has the right shape, but it went left instead of right. So B on that one. All right, so we won't need to. So y'all look here. Piecewise function on the right side. F of x equals x minus 7 for any x's less than -5. You're going to use x squared for any x's that are equal to -5 but less than 4. Or you're going to use 6x for any x's that are equal to or greater than 4. So my question is, A, B, or C, which equation would I use to find f of 4? All right, y'all, so I'm going through and I'm looking for the first one. Is 4 less than -5? Well, that's not true. Is 4 equal to -5 but less than 4? Well, y'all, 4 is not less than 4. So we're looking at this one and it says, well, is 4 equal to or greater than 4? That domain is true. So we would use the equation for 6x. So y'all, I would come over here and pick C on that one, okay? So y'all with me on what I'm doing? I'm looking at the 4 and I'm finding the domain for it. That's what the 4 part is. Once I find the domain, then I use whatever equation I got, okay? All righty, so let me make this one just a little bit bigger. Now notice they're giving us the vertex on this. That's that -4.5, 8.25. So the first thing they say, does it have a relative maximum or minimum? Well, y'all, it's on the top. And remember, peaks are maximums. So you're going to click, it's got a relative maximum. And then it says the maximum occurs at what x value? Well, y'all, my x value on this is that what, -4.5? And has a value of, well, that's the y value, which is 8.25. So that tells me the highest y value on this parabola is that 8.25. So let's see how y'all do right here. On what interval is the function increasing? And y'all, although it's got an arrow going down, the left side of this graph is going uphill because you got to read them left to right. So that left side of that graph is increasing. But remember, when I look at increasing and decreasing, I'm looking at x values, not y values. A and B got y values. Those are gone. It's got to be C or D. So is it coming in from -infinity and increasing to the -4.5? Or is it increasing from the -4.5 to infinity? So since we said it was that left side, y'all, that left side is coming in from -infinity to our -4.5. So it's increasing. Answer C. Well, if it's increasing from -infinity to -4.5, it's going to start decreasing at that x value, -4.5, as I head out to the right towards positive infinity. So the thing you got to remember on these is stick with x values on the increase and decreasing. So y'all, A, B, C, or D. So that one has to be B. Remember, if it's increasing from -infinity to the number, it's going to decrease from the number to positive infinity. So one's going to start with -infinity, and one of these will end with your positive infinity, okay? All right, y'all, so we pick B on that, and I don't think there's nothing else. So we're good to go. And I think we got another piecewise one coming up. All right, y'all. So let's see. We're going to find h of -8, h of a -3, h of 1, and h of 3. All right, so I'm going to write these intervals down. So it's -3x minus 14 if the x is less than -4. It equals 1 if -4 is less than or equal to x, but less than 1. And then we use x plus 6 for any x's greater than or equal to 1. So y'all, which equation would we use? And then we got to plug that number into that equation, okay? I'm going to share my page over here. So y'all, I'm going to start out with h of -8. So here was your h of x. -8, is it less than -4? Yes. -8 is less than -4. So I'm going to use this equation and put a -8 in for the x. So this will equal -3 times that -8 minus 14. All right, so -3 times -8 is 24 minus our 14. And y'all, 24 minus 14 gives us 10. And then we find h of -3. Well, y'all, -3 is not less than -4, so I'm not using that one. -3 is between a -4 and less than 1. So it's in this domain here. But look, anything in this domain equals 1. So h of -3 equals 1. All right, then I'm finding h of 1. Now, it looks like I'm getting bigger as I go. So 1 is not less than -4. If I had a 1 in for the x, it's not less than 1. It's equal to 1. And this one says here, if your x is equal or greater than 1, use this equation. So I'm going to use the x plus 6 equation and put a 1 in for the x. So I got 1 plus 6, which will give me 7. H of 3, well, y'all, if 1 was greater than or equal to 1, 3 is definitely going to be greater than 1. So I use the same equation again and put a 3 in for the x. So that'll equal 3 plus 6, which will give us 9. So guess what? You're going to use each one of these equations at least once. And one of them is going to be done twice. Every time I've done this problem, I'm using the last equation twice for these two. So first equation, second equation, and then the third equation usually for the last two on these, okay? Now, don't hold me to that. Might not be true on y'all's, but everyone I've done has been like that. So we would go back to the math lab and start punching in our numbers. So we had 10 here. H of -3, we had a 1. And then I had a 7. And then I had a 9. So see, when you check answer, you're good to go. All right, y'all, so what's next? All right, so this was sort of the last thing we learned, the difference quotient from 5.4. So let's see what they're giving us. F of x equals -3x plus 10. And notice they're going to give you the formula f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So let's work this out. Now, y'all, I'll show you a trick on number 19 here. Since that's a straight line, And this formula is finding slope. This is like y equals mx plus b. M is the slope. So whatever number's in front of the x and you got a straight line is going to be the slope. So when I'm done with this big old formula, I should end up with -3 as my final answer. Now that'll work on number 19 because this is a line. Number 20, I got some x squareds in it and stuff, so it's not true for that one. So let's find out if this is going to be -3 when we're done. So the first thing you got to find, f of x plus h. So I'm going to put an x plus h in for that x. So I got -3 times x plus h plus my 10. So distribute the -3. So I get -3x, -3h, and then at the end is still my +10. And y'all, guess what? No like terms, so we cannot simplify that. So that's going to be the f of x plus h. F of x they gave us, and the bottom is always h. So remember, now I'm just going to start plugging stuff into that formula here. So we found f of x plus h, that's -3x minus 3h plus 10 minus f of x, which is -3x plus 10. And then h on the bottom. But y'all remember, I'm going to distribute this negative here and get rid of all my parentheses. But remember, everything in the second parentheses is definitely going to cancel with the counterpart in the first. So I'm just going to distribute that negative. So I got a -3x minus 3h plus 10. Negative times negative makes that a +3x. Negative times 10 makes that a -10 all over h. And y'all, it's true. This 3x cancels with the -3x. This -10 cancels with the +10. So look, I get a -3h over h. And at this point, I cancel the h's. And y'all look at that. My final answer is that -3. So on this one, it's not bad. If you know about lines and know the mx plus b stuff, this is basically finding the m, okay? So let me go back. When I get a -3 on that one. And then watch that. When you check your answer, you're good to go. So 19, a little easier, y'all. Watch this number 20. 20, they're giving us f of x equals 6x squared plus 8x plus 3. All right, y'all. So I'm going to share my screen on this one. So this one, not as easy as 19. I can't just pick a number out of that and throw it in the math lab. So let me write my formula. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So the hard part is finding the f of x plus h. Because remember, wherever they got an x, I got to put an x plus h. And then I'll have 8 times x plus h. And then plus my 3. So did y'all save your notes on what x plus h squared equaled? So in the long run, I won't fool it out because y'all got it in the notes. But x plus h squared equals x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Save this for the test because y'all are going to have an x plus h squared just like I did. So I'm going to replace this into that. So I got 6 times my x squared plus 2hx plus my h squared. And then I'm bringing everything else down. 8 times x plus h plus 3. So all I did was replace x plus h squared with that trinomial. Now I'm going to distribute a 6 here into 8 here, and then bring down my 3. So 6 times x squared is 6x squared. 6 times 2 gives me 12hx, and then 6h squared. Now I'm going to distribute my 8 right here. So 8 times x is 8x. 8 times h is 8h. And then at the end is my plus 3. And y'all guess what? I got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 6 things here, and none of these are like terms. So I'm going to start replacing stuff. This all is my f of x plus h, okay? So f of x plus h minus f of my x all over my h. So y'all, I'm going to put this in first. 6x squared, 12hx, 6h squared, 8x plus 8h plus 3. F of x was what they gave me, 6x squared plus 8x plus 3, and then we got our h on the bottom. Now this one I'm not going to distribute because y'all listen, since all these are positive, that negative is going to make them all negative. So I'm just going to cancel out right here. This negative 6x squared canceled with that 6x squared. This negative 8x is going to cancel with that positive 8x. And then this negative 3 is going to cancel with this positive 3. So to save you some time, everything here is going to cancel with itself over here, or its opposite. Remember, everything that's going to be left has to have an h in it. So I got a 12hx plus the 6h squared plus the 8h all over h. So now here's where you got to be careful. We got to divide every single one of these on top by that h. So this h would cancel, leaving 12x. Plus, well, here you got 2 h's on top, 1 on bottom. So 1 h will cancel, leaving 1 on top. So that's going to leave you a 6h. And then y'all look at the end, 8h over h. That h would cancel, leaving me my plus 8. So basically, you're removing 1 h out of everything on top. And then at this point, your final answer. So we would go to Math Lab and punch that in. So let me see. So we had a 12x plus 6h and plus R8. All right, so y'all, your number 20, like mine, is going to have 3 things left. It'll probably have so many x's plus so many h's plus a number at the end, okay? All right, y'all, so let me check that one. So we're in good, so we're good to go. So then we do, also that was it, right? 20 questions. All right, so those are all done. So y'all, what questions y'all have on this?
When is the test due again?
March 17th, which is next Sunday.
Okay.
Now it's everything should be open now. Y'all should have been able to work on the study guide, and then this morning the test should have opened. So it's open now, and now let me show y'all. I had 4. I didn't do 5 this time. I did 4 to show me work on. So write these 4 down, and I'll send this in the email also. But on this one, I just picked 5, 6, 11, and 20.
You're not gonna eat? Gonna go over there now?
Do it now. Oh, I thought I heard a question, y'all. Okay, must not have. All right, also, what questions do y'all have?
Could you show again how to input the answer on number 6?
On number 6?
Yes.
All righty, so let me go find that thing. Number 6. Okay, so let me clear this one out. Let me write my answer down real quick. 1/6 plus or minus I square root of 35. So let me show you how it looks on that. So let me delete that. So let me share my screen. So on number 6, when we finished it, we had 1 plus or minus I squared root of 35 over 6. And then I said we had to split it into 2 fractions. So you put the 1/6 and then plus or minus the I squared root of 35 over 6. So the trick on this one is putting it into Math Lab, like you said. So let's go to the Math Lab. So the first thing I did was hit the first fraction for the first number. And then that's where I put in my 1/6. So I did my 1. And then arrow down and put in my 6. And then y'all arrow right. Now, I used the plus or minus that Math Lab's giving me down here. So I hit the plus or minus. Then I hit the fraction again for the second part. So this one I had I square root of 35. So down here they got a little I. So I hit I. And then there's a square root right here that I hit. And I put my 35 in it. And then you arrow right to get out of the radical and go down. And then on the bottom, it would have a 6 also. So anytime you got the imaginary answers, they like them split into 2 fractions. All right, and then you would check your answer. Now let me show you another way I could have done that. You see where I put the I here? I'm going to take the I off. I could have went to the very end of this and put the I. Notice it's beside the fraction now, but y'all guess what? It'll take that also. Either way, you can put the I up in front of the radical or after the fraction. It'll take it either way. All right, so did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now, y'all, here's the thing. What y'all need to do after this test, there's a few spots where it's tricky putting stuff in. If you got to answer 1/6 and you got to square root of 35 and all that stuff in the I, but you did something wrong, say you did something like this. Let me show you. Let me backspace that I. Say you did something like that. You see how I got the I up under the radical by mistake? Say y'all did that and you check your answer. Well, guess what? It's going to mark that wrong because my I is up under the radical. If you did that and you missed it because of that, I can override that and give you that point, okay? I'm not quite as picky as Math Lab. Because sometimes it's hard for y'all to put this stuff in. But yeah, if you accidentally put it under radical instead of getting it on the outside, I would override that for y'all. So what you want to do on this test, if you're missing stuff, look at the ones you missed. Because I give you the option to look at it when you're done. If you forgot a comma in between ordered pairs, if you forgot a comma, if you put x equals and they just wanted the number, if you just put the number instead of the x equals the number, email me and let me know because I will look at those and override those, okay? Yeah, because y'all, you're doing too much work just to miss it based on how you're actually putting it in, okay?
I have a question. My computer was kind of messing up off and on. Are you gonna put this on your email? Like, I wanted to go back and look at this video again.
Oh yeah, I'm
This
recording right
Zoom
now.
call.
Yeah, I'm recording right
Okay.
now. So as soon as we're done, I'll upload it. It takes me about 30 minutes to get it into YouTube and stuff, and then I'll send y'all a link.
Okay, okay, on the email. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send y'all
All
email
right.
on the link. Yeah.
All right. And so we're supposed to have the test done